In this video, we're going to talk about how you can choose how you want SUMA to display certain things by default, what are called setting environment variables. And this is done by setting values in a file in your home directory that you should have called the .sumarc file. So first of all, to see if you have this settings file in your computer, which you should by following the instructions on the installation, we can just run our AFNI system check and see if it exists. Okay, down here under the summary, please fix items. For the moment, these first two ones are ignorable for our current purposes, but this one here says that we don't in fact have this file. So in order to get our default settings for SUMA, what we should do is we should have run this during the setup, but we can just run it now. So SUMA -update env, okay, and it tells me that it has done it, setting up what's called the environment for SUMA. So basically, in order to display SUMA, you have to choose something for a background color or different settings like that. And so there are some by default, and you can change them. In the AFNI GUI, we also, in looking at the AFNI GUI, we saw there was a similar file called .AFNI RC in the home directory. So now, if I look in my home directory, if I type ls home /dot, I'll just do star rc to see all the files that are there in my home directory that start with dot and end with rc. I see that some of these .bashrc, .cshrc, these are set shell environment variables. Here's the one for the AFNI GUI and different programs in AFNI, and here's one for .sumarc. So my home directory on this computer is home/grasshopper, and that's where they are. If I quickly jump to the home directory, so just type cd and I'm in the home directory, if I type ls, I don't see these files because they start with a dot. They, by default, they're what's called hidden files. So you can show those with ls -a, and now you see the files that have dot that starts with them. So that this means all, so it shows even these hidden ones. In general, these aren't files that we interact with too often. That's why they're just hidden to not take up too much space. Okay, so if I go back to the directory where I'm here, we've looked at a lot in SUMA in this directory, AFNI data 6, the FT subject in the SUMA directory, and there are these run scripts. So I'm just going to run one. Let's take a look at, let's say, just the left hemisphere one. Run SUMA 01. And if I run this now, okay, we see this is what SUMA looks like by default. Control left arrow gives me this nice sagittal view. If I just hit the arrow key, the brain rotates. So I'm just tapping the left arrow key. How much does the brain rotate by every time? This is a default setting. What is the background color here? This is a default setting. So let's take a look at the SUMA RC file. So AFNI open with some kind of text editor, and then home/.sumarc. All right, here we see everything that starts with a hash symbol here is a comment. This just reminds you how you can get this file installed on your computer, but you should have it now. And any line starting with this is also a comment. So for each environment variable here, they're numbered just for organizational purposes, and then there's a brief description here, and it tells you what the default value is in case you ever change it away. So here we haven't changed it. The default SUMA arrow rot angle is 5. So this is actually the environment variable that controls how much the brain rotates on a arrow key press. So if I change this to 30 and I save the file now, okay, now let me run this T-shell script again. Okay, and here's the brain, and just control left arrow, it's still the sagittal view. Now I'm going to hit the left arrow once, twice, 3 times, and the brain has rotated 90 degrees. Indeed, we can see that each arrow press is now 30 degrees. Okay, so it's as easy as that. As soon as you set an environment variable here, the next time you run a SUMA program, that change is effected, right? You just have to remember to save it. If I change it now suddenly to 0.1, something extremely small, that's not going to take effect here. This is still 30 degrees. Okay, if I close SUMA and open it up again, that value would be there. And just remember, this line is a comment telling you the default. If I change this, I wouldn't see any behavior. This uncommented one does that. Okay, I'll just leave this at 30 for the second. What are other things that we could before we look at other variables, let me just note that here I'm setting things in the .suma RC file. This means every time I run SUMA or a SUMA program, this value will be used. Great. Sometimes when I have a script, I want to use just some kind of value within that script only and not change it for the rest of times that I use SUMA. So let me just start a simple script here, -e, and I'm going to call it new.tcsh. Okay, so if I were writing a T-shell script here, like this, if I wanted to set one of these variables for the duration of this script, let's say this rote angle thing here, then what I could do is use shell syntax to do this. So in a T-shell script, I'd say set environment SUMA rote angle 30. And now I could have my SUMA command, etc., etc. And throughout the duration of this script, this environment variable for the rotation angle would be 30. And I can do that with any of these variables in here. As soon as the script is stopped running, and let's say if I run SUMA from here, then this value isn't used. This is not a permanent change. It's just for while the script is running. If this were a bash shell script, then I just have to use the bash shell format for defining one of these, which I think is export, and then there, set it like that. And I would probably change this to new.bash. And now in my bash script, this change is affected for the duration of the script, and then it's done. Okay, so I will just close this. Fine. So that's how you can use these environment variables in your own scripts as well. You don't just have to try to set them here and try to keep two separate files up to date and keep changing them. That would be inconvenient. Let's see, what else could we change here? Maybe one of the colors. So here, the SUMA background color here. So this is saying it's RGB notation, so red, green, blue. And right now, 000 means that the color is black. If this were 111, it would be white. And let's just see what this does. So if I run my T-shell script again, here we go. This is obviously something that I would choose for any publication or conference proceeding or something like that. There you go. So, the utility of these, or the purpose of them, well, you get to decide what looks the best in that. But the idea is you can customize a lot of the behavior and visualization of SUMA as much as you want. Brightness factors, etc. I think probably default color bars and things like this. So you can explore all of this, and hopefully there's some useful features for you.